Crash is back. He's clashing with his friends and foes.
The wonderful power.
Let's show them what we made of.
To get awesome weapons and blow away the competition.
Hey guys, it's Miharu. In 1999, we received our very first Crash Bandicoot spin-off game, Crash Team Racing. In 2003, that concept moved to the next gen with Crash Nitro Kart. But in 2005, Radical Entertainment would put their own spin on things. The previous year's Crash Twinsanity had marked a turning point for the series. Gone were the days of running through warp rooms or racing some evil alien for the fate of Earth. This was a new era. This was Crash Tag Team Racing. Tag Team Racing began under the working title Crash Clash Racing. A direct continuation of Twinsanity in terms of story, the game would have been set inside Crash's head, with the rest of the characters traveling around racetracks all based around Crash's dreams and memories. The game would have introduced personalized cars for each character, with the added gimmick of being able to fuse them together. Unfortunately, no information outside of the basic premise and this piece of concept art depicting Evil Crash in a car has ever been made public. Eventually, Vivendi Games decided to hand over development of this title to Radical Entertainment, resulting in what we now know as Crash Tag Team Racing. Announced in early 2005, the game was planned for release on PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, and even PlayStation Portable. A Nintendo DS version by Sensory Sweep Studios was also in the works during this time, but was cancelled just a couple of months before completion due to concerns of potentially competing with the upcoming Mario Kart DS. Some images of this port surfaced in 2014, showing unusual characters not present in the other versions, or even looking like they fit within the Crash universe. Tag Team was built on the engine of another Radical Entertainment game, The Simpsons Hit and Run, released in 2003. As such, it contains numerous references to that game, such as the voice lines,
I think I broke something.
Oh, I think I broke something.
This game sucks.
Oh, this video game sucks.
and the coin sound effects and explosion animations being ripped from it directly.
I had no idea what to expect going into Tag Team Racing, but I didn't think it would be an entirely different beast of a game.
I discovered this game sometime in the late 2000s after Crash of the Titans and Mind Over Mutant were released. I was searching around for other Crash games I'd missed out on playing over the years when I stumbled upon the Crash Bandicoot Action Pack, which included Nitro Kart, Twinsanity, and of course, Tag Team Racing. And while I enjoyed the former two and thought they were fun in their own way, they didn't resonate with me quite like this one did.
They sort of made a sequel to Twinsanity and a sequel to Nitro Kart, in the regards that, oh, okay, it's the third racing game, but it's also the next platformer.
I think the gameplay is pretty nice, mixing between platforming and racing. Unlike CTR and Nitro Kart, this game has both.
Crash Tag Team Racing offers a unique blend of platforming and racing, similar to The Simpsons Hit and Run, but even more so. Unlike other spin-offs in this series, this game doesn't confine you to a vehicle or make you feel trapped in a small space. Tag Team provides a greater sense of freedom, allowing you to explore the overworld without those restrictions.
It does a few things right with the idea of introducing open platforming, but it doesn't have the racing gameplay mechanics as the previous games.
I'll be honest, I generally forgot most of the time that this game was meant to be a car racer like CTR or NCNK, mainly because you're doing more platforming and minigames than any actual racing throughout the whole game.
I understand how it might seem a little odd. In CTR and CNK, the driving mechanics were the primary focus. It wasn't just press X to go, there was a learning curve to it. Tag Team, however, doesn't have that. It's extremely simplified, and since you'll be running around doing fetch quests most of the time, the racing part can feel like somewhat of an afterthought.
While this game is not as great of a racing game compared to Crash Team Racing or Nitro Kart before it, As a game you play for sheer fun, it is one of the best.
That beginner-friendly nature is what drew me in. It's one of those games that allows you to jump right in without having to learn intricate mechanics or controls. There's no strategy or skill involved, you just pick it up and play. And sometimes we all need that mindless fun.
What's worse than a crazed bandicoot behind the wheel of a car? A bandicoot clashing with other crazed drivers and shooting a really big weapon. Introducing Crash Tag Team Racing.
As for the gameplay itself, on the racing side of things, it's essentially Crash Double Dash. You begin solo, but once on the track, you can clash with other cars and decide your role. One character drives, the other shoots. I always preferred manning the weapon in the back, clearing the competition, then unclashing right before crossing the finish line to snag the victory.
I thought it was pretty cool being able to combine two cars together while one guns and one drives, but it also created an issue with the difficulty where things became a little too easy.
One issue I can definitely agree with is the game's usage of cars instead of carts. This choice affects the controls, as the larger vehicle size results in overall slower speeds and reduced maneuverability compared to the previous games. The tracks are also quite basic in terms of structure. Although they have some cool designs, and there are built-in shortcuts just like always, they don't offer the same feeling of reward as discovering your own tricks with skillful kart handling. And yes, blowing your opponents to smithereens is a bit of a problem since it creates this power imbalance where you're just wrecking everything in your path and can easily come in first place every single time. But I still had a blast with it. Same thing applies to the platforming. The controls have a floaty quality that, while typically a negative, I personally find charming and in line with the game's overall style. You can spin for longer than usual, which makes the movement feel so much more satisfying. And the best part? You can't die in the overworld. While you might fall into the abyss or a pool of water, you'll simply be warped back to where you were. There's no health or lives to worry about, making it a real easygoing experience. Let's talk a bit about the setting. Von Clutch's Motor World has a very different feel than most worlds in Crash games, which tend to be rather isolated. Even with how open Twinsanity was, anyone you encountered was usually just another enemy to defeat. But this place actually feels lived in. There are normal people, or as normal as you get in this universe, just walking around and minding their own business, which almost seems out of place for these games. Like, can you imagine if the lab assistants or villagers were just hanging out and not trying to kill you? Motor World is set up like your typical theme park, featuring a central midway area and 5 themed hub worlds to explore. Mystery Island, Happily Ever Faster, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Toontown, and Astroland. Within these hub worlds, you'll find racetracks, minigames, and other humorous secrets. The fairy tale land of Happily Ever Faster was always my favorite, and I just love the music.
And while you explored the park and raced on the tracks, it's all set to an excellent and sometimes otherworldly soundtrack created by the talented folks known as Spiral Mouth.
The racetracks and music done in part by Spiral Mouth and Mark Barrel had so much personality injected into them.
I like that they brought back Spiral Mouth from Twinsanity and they had a mix of like instruments and voices. I think that really lends to the personality. It's got a very whimsical, silly vibe throughout the whole game.
As mentioned previously, the racetracks do boast some really cool aesthetics reflecting their respective hubs, such as Evilocity's spooky castle vibe or Tire and Ice's prehistoric environment. But being grouped by theme, they sometimes lack distinguishable features to better set them apart. For instance, every one of CTR's tracks stands on its own, and I can picture each one perfectly in my mind. Recalling specific details for these, though, not as easy. Rings of Uranus is pretty unique in that it's just one big circle with a default of 9 laps, but I'm probably not going to remember a level like that over something like Hot Air Skyway. As you delve into Motor World, you'll encounter a wacky cast of characters, which I find to be some of the most memorable introduced in the series. And considering they originate from a spin-off game, that's quite impressive. Let's meet them, shall we?
Is there no dumb cast among you to accept the challenge of the greatest race of all time?
First up is Ebenezer Von Clutch, the park's owner and one of the 2 new playable characters.
I like the fact that Von Clutch is a mad German scientist who might have been in World War II based on his helmet and uniform.
Von Clutch is literally one of the funniest characters for no reason.
I think Von Clutch is just cool, man. He's just cool.
Von Clutch is an eccentric, fourth wall-breaking German cyborg, which feels odd even by Crash Bandicoot standards. The thing that gets me the most about him is on the surface he just seems like this quirky daredevil inventor, but then as you go through the game and talk to some of the other characters, you realize he's just a horrible person who overworks and underpays his employees, and has literally set up the Crash universe's equivalent of Action Park. I just realized in the process of writing this there was actually a section of Action Park named Motor World. I wish I was making that up.
Top of the morning and the cock-a-doodle-doo sports fans.
Another great addition is this pair of sports commentator chickens named Chick and Stu.
I loved the inclusion of Chick and Stu, who act as narrators for the story, with Chick playing the straight man, the lead play-by-play commentator, while Stu just comes out of nowhere with his jokes and anecdotes in his wacky version of color commentary.
Stu in particular had this little gag in which his hat or hair would change every time the camera cut back to him, which I always thought was pretty funny. But other than that, they essentially act as tutorial characters and serve as a means to unlock new cars for Crash.
Perhaps a riddle or two!
Willy Wumpacheeks is the Jolly Park mascot, as well as the game's main villain. Other than some brief explanations here and there, he doesn't really have much of a presence outside of the story cutscenes, of which there are very few. Despite this, I still think he left an impression with his strange appearance and amusing manner of speech.
I like the idea of a living Wumpa fruit. That type of character, he's a whimsical jerk, and I love those type of characters.
I'm Pasadena Opossum. I'm racing for old Von Clutch, and I'm gonna whoop you, that's for sure.
Out of this lineup, if you were to ask me which character is the most memorable, I would definitely say Pasadena Opossum.
She is basically what makes tag team racing.
I think Pasadena may have awoke something in me. Just something about her really clicked.
She's the second of the new playable racers and a lot of fun. Super sassy, competitive, and openly flirtatious toward Crash, which I think is what made her stand out.
I adored Pasadena's interactions with Crash. She may have a tough country gal persona got going on, but she's more than willing to ask Crash for favors every now and then.
While I will admit that she was probably a little too forward in her advances towards Crash, I do personally prefer the charactership of Crashadina compared to Crash and Torna.
I didn't think too much of the new characters. The park workers, on the other hand, were a real highlight all throughout, with how random and weird their interactions are with Crash.
They're gonna take my thumbs! Please, buy this from me, please!
The park drones are some of the most bizarrely entertaining NPCs I've ever come across in a video game.
The long-suffering employees of Motor World being the punching bags of the game, in addition to presumably being worked to the bone when they aren't being put in life-endangering situations by the player in the various gags you can find around the park.
They sorta act as merchants selling crystals and new outfits and whatnot, but the truth is you never know what you're gonna get with these guys. I swear, every interaction is incredibly random and will either have you laughing out loud or scratching your head wondering what just happened.
Take that, student loan. Pfft. I spit in my mask.
Beyond the new characters, the returning cast also underwent changes, some of which would persist in the franchise for years to come. We all know Twinsanity initiated Cortex's transformation into a more comedic villain, but what about the others? Let's begin with Crash Bandicoot himself. From this game through Nitro Fueled, the orange marsupial would be voiced by Jess Harnell, establishing the trend of using gibberish noises for his dialogue. For many, this voice, alongside Brendan O'Brien's iconic "Whoa," is what comes to mind when they think of Crash. Coco experienced a small shift as well, going from simply being the smart one towards a more bratty little sister role.
Big brother, why aren't you finding me more cash?
Crunch, on the other hand, saw a significant personality change. This was his first major appearance since Wrath of Cortex mainline-wise and Nitro Kart spin-off-wise. And for some reason, they just decided to make him a parody of Mr. T.
Eat your greens. Float old Crunch alone. Low interest. I buy that ride and word. We bounce.
Nina Cortex, a fan favorite since her console debut in Twinsanity, had her personality truly fleshed out in Tag Team, solidifying her as the character we know and love today.
You bring me the keys to this mean machine Von Clutch is parked here, and I'll give you this crystal I found.
And then there's Engine. My god, where do I even start? This game marked the first time he was voiced by Nolan North, who delivers one of the funniest performances I've ever heard and absolutely makes the character his own.
Crash! We must really stop meeting like this. I told you, only after 10 p.m. Don't call me here.
Having been introduced to this version of Engine through Titans, I was fully prepared for the insanity that was about to occur, and it did not disappoint.
Twinsanity started this change in tone for the franchise, becoming much more satirical and nonsensical, so it was no real surprise that Radical would take that kind of humor and expand on it tenfold.
Although Twinsanity is held in high regard for its creativity, it also marked a shift toward a more over-the-top comedic tone that some fans didn't appreciate. But for me, who had just gotten back into the series because of Titans, this kind of unhinged nonsense was right up my alley.
Radical Entertainment went balls to the walls with how wacky and bombastic this game was, leading to it becoming, in my opinion, the funniest game in the series.
You have this really weird split between genuinely hilarious dialogue, such as anything that comes out of Cortex or Engine, to the standard wrap of pop culture references and innuendos that I'm sure wouldn't fly so well today.
That's a lot of Uranus.
You're telling me.
I remember sharing so many inside jokes with my friend while we played, especially during the racing sections. Every time we'd shoot someone on the racetrack and their picture would pop up, we'd always read their names in a funny way like Coco and Nina. It's just one of those things where you had to be there. Between Nolan North's hilarious performance as Engine and the assortment of other NPCs, we were just laughing non-stop.
I dropped my medication. Now my tail will grow back.
I found myself laughing at a lot of things between whatever the other playable characters are saying, and all the visual gags involving Crash, whether he's causing trouble somewhere, or dying in some bizarre and random fashion.
But the humor isn't just in the dialogue. If there's one thing this game is known for, it's the gags and dioramas. The gags involve Crash getting into mischief and often seriously injuring the park drones, a portrayal that many find out of character and something that's regularly brought up as a criticism of the game.
I also feel like they made Crash kind of an asshole for no reason. Like, Crash was demented in this game, not gonna lie.
The ending of the game also implies that he drank what was left of Willy after he splattered on the floor, so take that as you will. Dioramas, on the other hand, are better received as they act as callbacks to the various death animations of the original trilogy. So, in a way, you can view this as Crash getting his just desserts for all the damage he's causing.
Don't even get me started on the humor. As a child at heart, I thoroughly enjoyed the Looney Tunes style slapstick in the dioramas.
Crash Tag Team Racing is such a fun game that gives off very summer fun, hanging out at the park with your friends vibes.
My personal thoughts and experiences with this game overall are mixed positivity. There's quite literally no other Crash game like this one.
Fan reception to Tag Team has always been a mixed bag. There are those like myself who absolutely love it and got into it right away, and there are those who didn't, whether it be due to bare-bones gameplay, Radical's outlandish style of comedy, or the portrayals of certain characters.
Crash Tag Team Racing is by no means a bad game, but in terms of the 3 racing games that this franchise put out on consoles, I still have to say it's probably my least favorite.
There's some stuff people don't like about it, but overall I thought it was an enjoyable game.
It's funny how perhaps the most chaotic game in the series somehow ended up being the most relaxing for me. I'll admit, I'm a bit biased toward it. I'm not really that knowledgeable about all the little details, nor have I even played it as much as one would expect. A lot of my positivity comes from the weird jokes and nostalgia of playing it with my friend. So no, it's definitely not the best, but it is my favorite. just for how it embodies the carefree days of my teenage years. And you can bet I was hyped when some of its content made it into Nitro Fueled. There aren't many Crash games I'm willing to do repeat playthroughs of, but this is one of them. A comfort game I can just sit down and play without having to stress over doing everything right. And whenever I do revisit it, it's always a wild ride down memory lane. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and happy 20th anniversary to Crash Tag Team Racing. A huge shout out to everyone who participated, and Mel for the thumbnail art. As always, if you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more casual gaming content, and I will see you next time. Until then, this is Miharu, signing off.